What's up, everybody? Welcome back into a new episode of the J-Rock Show. I'm here from the SimWorld TV studios. I'm your host, Jason J.K. Candell, and in this episode, I'm joined by Oklahoma freshman forward Suno Chapa. Suno, been weeks in the making, my man. We finally got it done. We had some production issues and technical difficulties last time you joined me here, so the episode never came to fruition, but you're here now. Appreciate you joining me at last. How are you doing today?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad to be back on here, man. I was a little disappointed when I found out, had the technical issues, but I always knew we would find a way to get right back to, making another one. So I'm glad to be here, man.
Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. It's been such a fun week of SimWorld U basketball. Conference play now upon us. You guys took on the Longhorns yesterday, but let's talk about the SimWorld U Performer of the Week. I'm doing JK's Player of the Night. Let's look at a broader scale on the J-Rock Show now on this new segment. Let's look at Colorado State sophomore guard Jeziel Wright-Johnson. Wright-Johnson, 36 points in the Colorado State upset of number 17 Gonzaga. Not a lot of guys can give Mark Few a fit, and Jeziel Wright-Johnson absolutely did that on Wednesday night.
How else do you put it other than the guy hooped? When you're going almost 75% from the field, bro, I think it's just obvious the other team couldn't do anything to stop you. You know what I'm saying? So for a team like Gonzaga, who's so just highly prestigious, has been good this year, to not be able to stop Jeziel, I feel like that just is a shine to show. Hey, Colorado State, they have a guy who could maybe put them in some ball games. And then for Jeziel Wright, it's hey, NBA scouts, NBA, I'm here.
I'm going to agree with that. Caden Shipp and Damian Luffy showed up for Gonzaga, but no one really else did. Didn't really matter. They had no answer for Jeziel Wright-Johnson. 16 of 22 from the floor. Are you kidding me? So worthy of SimWorld U Player of the Week from JK, but conference play is upon us, and the rivalry environment's getting tense. Your Sooners headed to Austin last night, but let's talk about the SEC, where most of the play went down on Wednesday night. Auburn upset number 2 Alabama after the Tide had not taken the court in over a month. Barkley James went bonkers, 25 points, but with the Tide, is there reason to panic, or are they just a little rusty from the long break? Is this a scheduling problem? How do we kind of look at this?
It's kind of, you started off with it, month break. Now, obviously, that shouldn't be an excuse, right? You should be able to play. You should be ready to play ball at all times, right? But you still put into effect that they have been off the court for a month. Not to give them another excuse, but they also lost a player in Aiden Weaver. So it's why would you worry? You only lost by 2 points. And then you also have to step back and be they're 15-2. Unless something drastic happens, their season's not gonna be horrible. So I don't think there should be any worry. And even if you look at the game, how many players did they have in double scoring digits? They had 1, 2, 3, 4. They have 5 guys in double digits, almost 6. So even though they lost Aiden Weaver, they have found more players to produce for them, which will be better for them in the long run. So even with this L, they're still going to take a lesson from it, and they're probably going to go win their next 6. Who knows? You know what I'm saying?
Definitely a tough one for Nate Oates' squad. I think the odds were always stacked against them, though. Their first SEC game was going to their bitter rival Auburn in an Iron Bowl match. Auburn was motivated. Bruce Pearl was going to get his team ready, whether it be hell or high water. So I'm not even remotely surprised that Alabama lost this game. They were on a long break, and Auburn came to play. Auburn's better than their record indicates. Barkley James really impressed me on Wednesday. So yeah, Alabama's had a tough one, but if they had lost this game in Tuscaloosa, maybe I'm panicking a little bit and starting to think, is this team not a little bit of fool's gold? But that's not the case. So I think they'll end up being okay. And like you mentioned, 5 players in double figures, just not their night. And even when you have a month off like that, that's pretty good. Although I do express some concern about the SimWorld U scheduling. This is our yesterday was Oklahoma's first game in what, a month and a half, almost 2 months, Suno?
Yeah, I believe that's correct. Definitely.
Since the start of December is what this is the fact check I have right in front of me, but
Sure.
that's absurd. You got to keep your team fresh, and it was a similar thing in SimWorld U football where these teams that had buys really struggle to keep playing because the more you're playing, the more you get into your rhythm, and the more time you have off, the more time you have to lose that rhythm.
Sure. I mean, I mentioned it a little bit because yesterday I was asked by B-Ron, uh, what my emotions were going into the game. I think they ended up making that to a beats, but
Yep.
my comments were, I'm just ready to play. Like that's what I told him. I'm just ready to play. I mean, I've been waiting to get out. I had been waiting to get out there and be in game again. So I'm definitely very happy that we did get out there and have our game, because if it would have been any longer, I probably would have lost my mind.
Absolutely. It's like you needed to uncage the beast, so to speak, right?
Absolutely.
And with it being Texas, that much more anticipation facing it, but enunciation. But let's. How about Ole Miss, Mississippi State? Ole Miss's student section calling the Bulldogs overrated as the Rebels snack their 6-game losing streak and Mississippi State's 8-game win streak in an upset at home. There's no better feeling than that if you're Chris Beard and Ole Miss. Not only do
I
you
mean,
snap a opponent's win streak, you snap your own losing streak in front of your home fans to kick off conference play.
yeah, that one definitely had to feel good, man. I mean, especially for a 6-11 Ole Miss squad, it's not like their season is just completely gone, right? They still got a chance to turn that thing around. So for them to come in, and beat highly ranked Mississippi State squad and beat them, I mean, not a big beat, but it still wasn't like, oh, they won by a buzzer beater or something. It was comfortable enough for, I feel like, a 6-11 team like them. So that was definitely a big one for Ole Miss. I loved being able to see them get that win for sure.
Definitely played a little bit into some motivation for you guys going into Austin yesterday.
Oh, definitely, definitely, definitely.
Anything can happen in conference play, but what I thought was one of the most interesting storylines of the week, Suno, Marco Jacobs, ESPN's number 3 player in the SimWorld Prep Top 100, commits to North Carolina, will instantly form one of the scariest backcourts in SimWorld U alongside Kasim Porter Jr., and they still have Kamarian Bracken. They'll still have Kadarius Stack Jr. They'll still have Sean Hyman. This is a young and hungry and dangerous North Carolina team, and we're entering a big age of an age for a blue blood to become one of the best teams in the country. It's seeming like they're number 10 right now. Expect them to be even better next year.
I mean, I don't think it came as a shocker to anyone when Marco committed there. I mean, that guy's like North Carolina through and through. Uh, that's definitely something I thought about during the commitment process for me. I don't know if that story was well known. Actually, I feel like it was. I definitely remember some things in the feed being said about it, but I only had 2 offers, man. I had 2 offers. I had UNC and Oklahoma. So, I would have either been a starter at UNC or I would have been part of the, big 3 down here at Oklahoma, and obviously I want to make a difference for the hometown. So, but but it definitely showed me when I was there. I figured out what UNC's plans were for the future, and their plans for the future, I mean, what you would expect from a blue blood. And Marco Jacobs finally committing there definitely like continues to put that plan into fruition. I mean, you said it before, KPJ. I mean, like if you look at it, I've said my things about him in the feed because I got into it with a coach, but I will say like KPJ is a great player. Uh, but I'm definitely just there's a little bit concerned for me when it gets to when he has to be uh lead scoring guy. But with them picking up Marco Jacobs, now he really doesn't have to. He can still play his playmaker role, which is great for them, and I think they played that perfectly. So
Definitely. And you give one of the best playmaking guards in SimWorld U, one of the best scoring guards from SimWorld Prep, and Hubert Davis called it a good problem to have, whether he plays Marco Jacobs off the bench or Kamarian Bracken. Guards win teams championships in hoops area, so I think UNC with Marco Jacobs has all the makings of a national title contender. I think they'll be better than Duke next year. I'll go that far.
better than Duke next year. I mean, well, I don't really think I have an argument towards that one because I mean, well, I feel like I have a little bit of an argument. Because I think Duke is picking up both Andre Ivanov and Pablo Guzman. I feel like an already 15-1 team. Now, yes, they are losing. Like they're potentially losing DeMario Duval, Roderick Little, Jeremiah Minor if they decide to declare for the draft. I feel like the most realistic one is Jeremiah Minor because I think DeMario and Roderick are only projected to be second rounders. So I think those two stay. But for Duke to also again keep Cooper Flag and then
And
get
keep Big
Andre
Vic.
Ivanov and keep Big Vic. Absolutely. Keep Big Vic. And then you have an underrated player in Addison Sampaio who absolutely carried what was it, SW Brazil before they disbanded. And then you have Andre Ivanov, another 7'3" tower coming in to play with Victor. And then you have Pablo Guzman, who's been leading that SW Latin America team. I mean, I don't know. Like, now that I kind of look at it, I don't know. Like, I feel like Duke might still have them.
It's going to be close. And you talked about how you considered UNC strongly and that you were only had two offers, UNC and Oklahoma, and I want that to lead into my first question for you. You stayed so close to home. Like you said you wanted to put on for the hometown. Was it always Oklahoma for you even before those offers? And were there any schools you seriously that you hoped would have offered that didn't?
Nah. I mean, Oklahoma was the only one. Like, if I didn't get an offer from Oklahoma, I probably would have been very upset. I mean, not getting offers from anyone else, it hurt a little. Like, well, let's be honest. Like, I don't remember my exact ranking. I think I was the fourth or fifth ranked ESPN recruit, and I had two offers. That pushed me a certain way, and now it's like I'm gonna show them what I can do while not feeding myself into a blue blood that's already established. Not to say Oklahoma hasn't been established before, but at the moment we haven't been. And I'm ready to start a culture down here and show teams that like, hey, I only had two people wanting me. I gave it all to my hometown, and we're gonna make a difference, you know?
Absolutely. And speaking of that recruiting stuff, we talked about Marco Jacobs. I've spoken about the Kai Killens Alabama mega team frequently. I've not talked about what Oklahoma has coming in next season. You guys got Carson Cutbirth. You guys have Terrell Coleman, Breck Backer, who were classified, and Andre Pope Jr. A lot of movement from Coach Moser. Just how excited are you for what the future holds at Oklahoma and to play with some more SimWorld Prep alum next season?
Man, I'm gonna be honest, dude. Too excited. Like, listen, I love the people I'm playing with now. I'm learning a lot from Floyd Henderson. I'm learning a lot from Jace. You know, I'm having, all our big guys are they're like locker room like the locker room goofs, But it'll definitely be a lot more comforting to play with guys who come from prep because I know that they've come from a similar place as me. Now I have Jace Miguez. Jace Miguez is also a prep alum, and a few others, but just gonna talk about the pickups, I guess. Andre Pope, I mean, like, he's a big defensive guy. I mean, and with what coach, sorry, with what coach Hyman, I believe that's his last name. I always get his Dre Pope. Sorry, their family tree is too big. But
Yeah.
with Coach Dre Pope, he's had a knack for developing big men. So considering that that this is his son and he's developed him his whole life, I feel like that's just dangerous. Carson, I've known Carson for for years, man. I've known Carson for years, even before we stepped in the SW prep. I was originally, before I decided to go to Best Coast, I was supposed to stay on Gulf Coast and be part of that squad that they had last year, but it just didn't end up happening. But I still lots of respect for Carson. Carson's going to be a great. I assume he will be the point guard. That's what I'm sure that's what's going to happen. He'll be a great head of the offense. Terrell, I'm going to be honest. He got alive a little late, but I think he definitely didn't have a horrible season, but he definitely showed his defense all season. I remember seeing that he had a 9-block game. I think he leads in blocks for the most part, and then he's like the second scorer on that Showtime team behind Emilio Torres. So he's come alive as well on both sides of the ball. And then Breck Baker, another Oklahoma native. Like, bro, I am like, Breck has also like been on one because I believe he's on SES and he has been scoring like crazy. Like I can't give any complaints, man. All of these guys are great.
And I'm excited that you're getting excited because this season's definitely been rocky for you guys. You lost 5 in a row, headed into Thursday night. Just been a rough season. But what I want to know is, how are you kind of handling that after winning so much throughout your SimWorld prep career?
And it's all right. You know, I'm definitely known as a winner. I'm known as someone who wants to win, do anything to win, even if that means sacrificing my own time, sacrificing my own usage, sacrificing, I mean, whatever it takes, put in more work. Like, I want to win. I've let that be known in the Oklahoma locker room as well. And, you know, it definitely hurts to not be winning, but it's not like I'm not used to it. My first year of prep was with Gold Coast with Coach Hyman. And we didn't even make I believe it was called the last, what was it called at the time? I don't know. But basically the run to one. I believe it was the run to, I don't know. Season 1, Gulf Coast, we didn't even make it there. I was playing with De'Aaron Cruz, Akeem Young, me, you know, just like we didn't have a bad squad, but we didn't know how to execute, you know. And I didn't have a great year personally. So when I went to Best Coast, you know, we're winning, leading our region, you know, I've exploded in terms of player development. I was definitely happy. And for it to kind of reset and go backwards when I got into college, at first, you know, I was definitely disappointed. But after taking some time to look at it, kind of sit back, it's like, hey, like, freshman years are usually for learning, you know? So, like, I can't take it to heart.
Absolutely. I understand that. And final question I have for you is, just kind of walk me through your start in basketball and who those biggest idols and influences have been through your basketball career.
Absolutely. I mean, I believe I did a segment like this when I first got into prep, but I can remember myself sitting on the couch watching watching Oklahoma, both Oklahoma and the Oklahoma City Thunder. And you know, this is in like my childhood, this was like prime OK. Like obviously, you know, nowadays people are gonna say, oh, prime OKC is the new squads. The new squads are great, but that's not prime OKC, all right? But like this was like prime OKC. Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, James Harden, you know,
Before he
all those
was a
guys.
future Hall of Famer when he was a sixth man.
Before, yeah. So watching those guys going out there, Kevin Durant has always been my favorite, you know. And like I would watch them have their games and then I'd go outside and, you know, shoot on the hoop. You feel me? So it was like that's what motivated me to play. That's what pushed me to play. Seeing those guys and being like, oh my God, that could be me one day.
Absolutely. And just have to ask, how did you react when Kevin Durant left for Golden State?
uh I don't know, man. It took me a little bit to get over it, but I just kind of followed him. You know, he went to Golden State. I supported Golden State because I support him. So you know what I'm saying. So it's just kind of it took a little bit, you know, because the whole Oklahoma thing. But
I think we might have a
I
little
got over it
bandwagon in our
eventually.
midst.
Hey, bandwagon? Nah. Just you know, just got a favorite player, man. Gotta stay loyal
Yeah,
to that. You feel me?
yeah. Just talk about your favorite players right before we I really wrap this up. You got a favorite player beside yourself or anyone on Oklahoma in SimWorld U that you like to watch or would like to play with?
Man, SimWorld U. Oh, all right. That's actually one I kind of have to think about because there is really a lot of great options. Because I know that. All right, let me kind of back to the start. I think like number one in terms of like who I think I could learn what I want to learn the most from. I would want to play with Trey Turner because I want him to teach me how he gets so consistently like he gets so consistent with his 3-point shooting. He like that his 3-point shooting is like just looks effortless. So I would want to play alongside him to learn his crafts because I think that's the part of my game that I'm missing the most is my ability to shoot from the perimeter. Uh, Another one I have, I'm gonna be honest, I would have to say CKC because even when I first got in prep, everyone was talking about CKC this, CKC that. Same for Lacedarius Outlaw. It was always Lacedarius, CKC. People were at the time Mikey Williams, and then we had Bronny, and then we had like those were the guys that were always getting talked about. So it made you intrigued and like, oh, what if I played with them? Uh, and then I guess I'll throw a big man in there. Let me throw a big man in there. Ooh, yeah.
Feels like
I don't
there's
know.
some low hanging fruit in that category.
um, oh, I'd probably say between Jameson Johnson and Lamarion Sherwood. I mean, Lamarion is just like emerged as like this crazy freak, dude. Like absolutely domination. But I've heard of Jameson Johnson and watched Jameson Johnson for a while. I mean, he's like a Tim Duncan kind of guy. And like, who wouldn't want to play with a Tim Duncan kind of guy? You feel me? Like Tim Duncan was great, and Jameson Johnson plays just like him. So
That's some high praise, man. That's going to do it for this episode of the J Rock Show. Suno, thank you for taking the time to talk to me. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Hope you have a great rest of your day.